get into it. So,
I'll just go full screen.
right. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Trans and the Mouse, episode 54.
Yo.
We have the wonderful Susie Green with us to discuss.
I don't know how you keep getting these proper professional fucking people to show up to a show where they just get shouted at by a weird trans person.
I mean,
you're fucking amazing.
I mean, it's
Hello.
called luck because the fact is, you know, Susie. I mean, I don't want to speak for Susie, but she could have said no. That's a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all about. It's called luck, I suppose.
I'm no.
But yeah, we recently had
I'm not complaining.
Yeah, we recently had Heather Patterson on.
Yeah.
And she says hi, by the way, Susie.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
She's great. It was so fun to catch up with her.
Yeah, she had a dog with her as well, so we had to keep it under 2 hours with her.
This is now the Dog Whisperer, the podcast.
I think it is. Yeah, I think we need to rename it. Never mind Trans the Mouth. It's
Yeah, we're going to watch every episode in sync of the Dog Whisperer with Cesar Milano and get really fucking angry at him. Episode 1 goes now.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So let's get into it. So obviously, if you don't know, like you must have lived under a rock. But Susie Green was the former chief executive of Mermaids. So I suppose we should get into the history. So I'm aware of obviously the debacle that happened with Mermaids being sent to court and all of that. So can you discuss?
For a moment, I thought you were going to say hell for some reason. Jesus, hell.
So can you sort of discuss the aftermath that basically led you to kind of leave that position?
Yeah, I mean the court case was
within reason.
Yeah, within reason and within the scope of what I can actually and can't talk about as well.
Yeah, don't break any NDAs for us.
Yeah, don't break any NDAs. No NDAs are being broken today. So we obviously agreed based on what was happening with Mermaids, with the LGB Alliance, that we worked with the Good Law Project and decided that we would be a good complainant against their charity status. And we therefore took the Charity Commission to court for giving charity status to what essentially is a hate group. In the end, the judgment came down on whether or not we, as Mermaids, as an organization, as a charity, had the standing. It's a legal sort of argument whether or not we had the legal standing to bring that case. And that was essentially what was ruled, was that we didn't have the standing. So therefore, the case was dismissed. It wasn't dismissed because it was looking at whether or not LGBA were hateful or not. It wasn't dismissed because we didn't have a good case against them. It was dismissed because Mermaids was not seen as being having the standing to bring a case against the Charity Commission for giving charity status to LGBA. That kind of begs the question.
Truth.
Sorry?
A technical truth, the worst kind of truth.
Yeah. And the thing is about it is it sort of begs the standing. Well, who is then? Who is ever going to be able to bring a case against against charitable status being handed to a group that literally exists just to vilify trans people and to fight back against their very existence? Who can? And with any other charity for any other means,
nobody.
No, So that was that. that's how that went. And that then obviously resulted in, we decided, we talked to Good Law Project and decided there was no point in appealing because it's a technical point. It wasn't about whether or not the LGBA were a hate group or not. It was literally about a technical point. So there was no point in going any further with it. So we then obviously looked away from that and decided not to go any further. But, you know, I think it focused the anti-trans brigade on mermaids as an organization because we were standing up against the LGBA. So yeah, and then in September after that, mermaids were then subjected to, like, the Telegraph basically pulling together a series of articles about binders, and all of this concluded at the end of November 2022 when I was and this is in the Charity Commission report that came out about mermaids, following them launching a statutory inquiry, that my contract was terminated. So I then left Mermaids at the end of November 2022.
Yeah.
So I can't really say much more than that. But
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
How long have you been
Yeah, go on,
there?
Max.
How long have you been there?
I became involved with mermaids in so about 24 years ago.
Oh,
When my
my
daughter
God.
when my daughter was 6, I phoned the helpline, the number that I found on the website, and talked to one of the founder members about the fact that my daughter had told me that she was really a girl.
Yeah.
She was 4 when she told me, but she was 6 when I made contact with mermaids. So I became involved as a parent on the parents group, and then I became involved as a trustee. Then I became involved as chair. And then at the beginning of January 2016, I was the first ever paid employee. And from that point forwards, I moved mermaids from being a charity with about 10 grand a year income to, just like when I left, income was circa 2 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did some honest fucking good work. Holy shit.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But clearly not good enough.
Yeah, well, I mean,
according to Fuckwits.
I mean,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to speak. I'm a crude person. I'm really sorry if that was you. But like, no, fuck that. You've helped loads of people with that. So like, good on you, and thanks for coming on this fucking podcast.
Yeah, it's like, those people who kind of demonized your work, they know who they are, so we don't need to name them because they know who they are.
No.
But it's like, yeah, it's like I remember when mermaids had to close their telephone lines for, I think it was 24 hours because due to the constant abuse they were receiving.
that was a decision that I made. So
Yeah.
the helpline team were really struggling, and the ops director came to me and said, people are really struggling. There's lots of really vile abuse being directed at everybody who's on the lines. And I said, just shut it. We can't keep expecting people to put up with this. So just shut it down.
No.
Let's give people a couple of days respite and let's shut it, because answering phone calls, and as somebody who's like supporting trans kids themselves, whether they're a parent or whether they're an ally or whether they're trans themselves, then being called pedophiles and disgusting, and being told they should be in jail, etc., which sort of happened after the Telegraph attacked mermaids. That's not okay. So
no.
I made the decision to shut the helpline to
Yeah.
protect people, because people were really burning out and the abuse was having a massive effect on people. Understandably so.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
you know,
But that just speaks to the core,
Oh yeah.
how do I say? I'll just say the core problem with these turfs and transphobes, however they want to like identify themselves as. You know,
Yeah, because I care really fucking much about their self-identity.
yeah,
well,
they,
they're protecting the children. You've got to remember they're protecting the
yeah,
children.
yeah,
Of course they are. Yeah, because
yeah.
they're not
Meanwhile,
arseholes at
yeah.
all. No.
Oh,
Yeah, that's it. That's just what they're doing. They're protecting the children by
yeah.
fucking driving them to suicidal ideation. That's a real interesting way of protecting them. I
Which
gotta say, like, it's a
yeah,
fucking bold move.
yeah. Which I find, which me personally, I find extremely funny, given that recently, well, I say recently, probably a few weeks back now, we had the reports into the child abuse scandal in the church, which I find funny. You want to protect children.
Yeah, I haven't
Okay,
had
so what
fucking
about
zilch about that from
yeah?
them.
So yeah, so it's like but yeah,
Though I did
so
see a really
kind of
funny.
weird.
I don't know if it was. I've been off Twitter this week because I've been sick,
Yeah,
and also because like it's Twitter.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's pretty
But
much
like,
a cesspit now, isn't it? There's no
yeah,
point in going on there unless you just are happy with being abused.
I tend to. I'm a terrible fucking person. I gotta be honest. So I work as the person who because I'm not affected by that. Like it doesn't hurt me because they are nobodies to me. I am fucking grateful that I am able to like. I'm lucky enough to be able to have that sense of self. Uh, but like, and I can be really fucking viciously cruel. So I tend to jump into the pits to fight them instead, uh,
yeah,
to make them feel bad. And I'm not going to feel bad about doing that shit because like they drive people to suicidal ideation. So as long as I'm not doing that, I'm still like going comic plus.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean
um,
I don't bother because there's just no point, because
yeah.
you know
No,
I
I don't look at it as a
I've
debate
literally
anymore.
I tell you what, I've got way too much to do in a
yeah,
positive way
Oh yeah,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
you know, I'm
I just
spending my time doing stuff that makes a difference.
yeah, which
yeah. Like that's
And I
you
applaud
are
you for
absolutely
going
correct
in.
on that.
I applaud you for going in and going up against them, because I haven't got the energy for it anymore. It doesn't affect me. I think I'm a
Mm,
bit the same, a bit like you, you know.
yeah,
I listen to this and I see this and I just go, nah, that's not true. None of this is
yeah.
true. It's all
I've always been a
bullshit. It's
fan.
not true.
Yeah, I've
yeah,
always been a fan of roasting comedy, like
yeah,
mean-spirited comedy and shit. And like, it's nice to be able to get that out to people who I genuinely don't care if I hurt. Like that's not productive. That's not me saying this is a good thing. What I'm saying is that I am sort of a barrier to the people who would actually get hurt by that shit. But like, that's it. That's the only. I'm doing this for like some reason my brain is weirdly wired, so I think it's fun to fuck with these people.
yeah.
And
I remember.
thankfully so, because otherwise I
Yeah,
would be off that. I would be. Uh, I think growing up in like the aughts on the internet kind of ruined me and
yeah,
my like relationship to people online.
yeah,
To be honest.
yeah.
Like
Like I said, yeah,
the forum and communities of that time was fucked.
yeah.
Uh,
I brought this up on the last podcast that I have a friend who has started their transition, and she pays no attention to the turfs at all. At all. She
yeah.
she rarely goes online anyway.
What
Um,
I can do, and like we've had to deal with this. That's why we introduced the thing that we kind of instead just talk about movies every other week. Because I realized that like the news is what fucks me up. And that like I was in a really fucking bad state for a while before I realized that like just every week getting like these many trans people have died this week kind of ruined my happiness for a bit. So now it's much better. But that's the type of shit that like gets to me, and especially if it's kids, I can't deal with kids getting hurt. That like there's a reason I'm a teacher, and I've been working as a teacher for 8 years, I think. I am way older than I look. But and that's why I find it so fucking funny when they say that like they protect the kids. No, you're not, because I'm the person who has to fucking then deal with like kids who break because of their shitty transphobic parents, or like just kids who feel like shit. And like, no, these people aren't doing shit to help them. And they're not saving them from nonsense either, by the way. So like that's a fucking because they can't even fucking identify a pedophile.
It's had the whole thing with the trans investigation bullshit. And it's like, what are you doing? Like
you're going to make me think of it. You're going to make me think of the Dylan Moran thing again.
The Dylan Mulvaney is like,
Mulvaney, I'm sorry, Dylan Moran is a fucking comedian.
It's like, but I mean, that's just their brain literally falling out. But obviously, we will obviously briefly discuss mermaids, and obviously can't discuss anymore because due to the NDA. And so let us swiftly move into.
I would assume NDAs actually.
NDA, yeah.
I'm thinking plural here.
Yeah.
I've fucked celebrities. I know what happens.
Yeah. So obviously you've had to unfortunately leave your position. However you want to and then so how long
terminated between, I think was the choice of words.
Yeah. So how long between when you left your position until Ad was formed? So what was the time period?
I immediately sort of like I went to work for Gender GP for 6 months.
Right.
So I knew Helen Weberly back from sort of 2014 when she started talking about supporting trans kids. And honestly, I thought she was great. I thought what she was doing was really good. And, she put herself out there and got a lot of flack for it. And obviously ended up with her being and her husband being suspended. He was actually struck off by the GMC for treating trans young people. She ended up winning her case. I was actually with Gender GP in March 2023 when she won her case. And the GMC removed the sanctions against her. But I suppose I went to work for Gender GP with the understanding that the service was run in an ethical and proper fashion with proper medical oversight, and really got to know fairly quickly that it wasn't. And so I only stayed there for 6 months because I kind of realized that I couldn't ethically be involved with something that I thought would potentially be placing people in danger, because it was almost like people were working to a formula, and they weren't medical people. So right. The people who were deciding on what prescriptions people should have, what medication they should have, who were looking at the blood tests, if the blood tests were even looked at, were all non-medical. Well-meaning, by the way, because, these people in these teams really wanted to do good things for trans people. But
yeah, well, the road to hell and all that shit.
Yeah, and it was honestly, I felt it was dangerous, and I handed in my notice and I left
Yeah.
at the end of June. And in the meantime, when I got booted from Mermaids, one of my friends, Lizzie Jordan, who I've known for years, who runs another a CIC, community interest company in Lincolnshire, which is like a mini Mermaids. She got in touch with me immediately and was like, bloody hell, Susie, what's going on? And you can't step back from the community. We need you to be, we need you to be part of this ongoing fight. And I was like, I have no intention of stepping back. Told her that I was going to Gender GP. We carried on. We met regularly. And when I started to realize the cracks that I was seeing within Gender GP, and it made me feel like it wasn't a place I could stay. Lizzie and that's when Lizzie and I started thinking about how can we provide something that's better? How can we provide something that's medically overseen, that has real doctors and nurses talking to people in person, even if it's via video link, but talking to people face to face about what their medical needs are, what their goals are, what they should be on, that their blood tests have been looked at by that doctor that they meet. And they know then that if there's a change in prescription or they want to move on to something else or whatever, that they're doing that under proper medical supervision. So we wanted to do this for ages, and we were just like, we know that we've got the knowledge and the expertise from like over 2 decades of working with trans young people and their families. But we had got a couple of GMC doctors who were interested, and then they got warned off about getting involved in trans healthcare, particularly trans healthcare for kids, which is when we decided we're probably going to have to go through the route of having an EU doctor, because then the GMC can't target them and can't stop them. But then by Christmas 2023, we'd given up. We were like, we can't get the money, we can't get the seed funding to get it going. We can't do it on fresh air because we need to pay people decent wages. So we kind of gave up. And then come the beginning of 2024, an influencer reached out to me and said, how can I help? And gave us our seed money to get going. So we started in April 2024. We saw trial patients because we wanted to make sure that our process was right, that our systems were right, that we had, that everything was working as it should be. And then July 2024, which is after the first ban came in May, we went public. And we went public saying, this ban is a piece of shit, and we are still going to support trans young people to access them. And we got legal advice, extensive legal advice, to work out a way to be able to support young people to access it without breaking the law.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Nearing levels of fucking malicious compliance here, which I like. That's the shit that I live for. But can you say, this is just a personal, that influencer, are you able to divulge who that is? Was?
No, I don't. They've asked us
No,
not to. They want
No,
to remain
that's just,
benevolent, but
yeah,
a
I'm not trying
benevolent
to dig for a
unknown.
scoop here, by the way. I'm just like, that was just my personal curiosity because I
I
just like
think,
one person who I actually watch online.
yeah, I think we'll keep these people anonymous because
Oh yeah, like,
I'm sure
of course.
I'm sure these people in their daily lives, I'm sure they receive hate and abuse anyway. So I
You
don't want
don't
to
say.
pile on. I don't want to give them more. I don't want to have another pile on just because.
Yeah,
Yeah. So let's keep it.
100%.
I'm just going to
Yeah.
skip my next segment then, which is just me reading a list of names. I'll throw that in the fucking document shredder then.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I remember when.
Let's see if this is.
I'm gonna admit it. Like I sort of, Max knows this. I sort of hate watch, the mess we're in because I just love watching Grinner have a meltdown.
That's the first
So
time anyone said that fucking sentence.
yeah,
That's,
um,
Jesus Christ.
I,
I didn't
I,
wake up this morning expecting to be jump scared by fucking that knowledge.
no,
I know you watch it, but like the fucking thought, I
yeah,
enjoy
I
watching
hate
Glenn, and it's
watching.
just,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
hate what,
I'm
uh,
joking.
and it's
I'm
like
joking.
I remember
I do.
when you spent 6 months at gender GP. Like he had a complete meltdown. When you started and healthcare, he had another meltdown, and it's like because I think
So it must be a day ending with Y.
yeah. So yeah, but so so 20 so what was the time frame? So was it like 2022 you left Mermaids?
Yes, at the
20
end. So yeah.
again. So would you say it was about? So it must have been about a year between leaving Mermaids and forming Anne.Health.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. Yeah. Just a bit over a year, probably about 18 months. I mean, so
Yeah.
November to April. So November to November, then to April. So November, December, January. So yeah, sort of 16, 17 months. So nearly 18 months from leaving Mermaids to forming to setting up Anne.
Right. So where did the crowdfunder come in? Was that a separate? Did the crowdfunder come in at a later date, or is that already in the works?
So we're looking at doing a crowdfunder. We're going to start at the end of this month. So we're talking at the moment to crowdfunder themselves and working on the details of what we're asking for and what that's going to pay for, what it's going to subsidize. So we're just going through that. So there's going to be towards the end of this month, we're going to push out a crowdfunder, and that will be to pay for. It'll be to pay for a variety of different things. So we're set up as a not-for-profit. So
Right.
we have committed to saying that after we've paid our business costs, any profit that's left over will go towards subsidizing people's care. Now, as a new startup, that's obviously going to take a little bit of time till we get to a position, but as soon as we do, that's what's going to happen. That money is going to go into a pot to support people who can't financially afford it. But I'm seeing, we're seeing so much misery out there from families who can't afford private healthcare, who've now been told that the NHS isn't going to do jack shit for them.
Yeah.
So we want to
fucked.
bring it forward. So we're starting a crowdfunder at the end of this month, and that will be aimed at supporting people who would literally have no option at all to access private healthcare. And that will include coverage for memberships, it will include coverage for counselling, it will include coverage for self-medding checks if somebody wants to stay on self-medicating and doesn't want to move over to a medication, because things like injectable estradiol we can't get in the UK. We have tried to find out where it might be available, but we just can't get it. So some people will want to continue to self-medicate. So we want to bring in harm reduction so that they can do that safely with blood tests, with an appointment with a
I
medical professional.
I love what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And then
Like as a just the whole like the harm reduction angle of it is uh, as a user of certain narcotics, I am very happy to hear thinking about harm reduction because that is fucking an often overlooked and always so fucking important part. Like I self-medicate. I self with like uh, shit, and like having the background in being a drug user was absolutely fucking paramount to me knowing what the fuck I was doing. Um, so like you giving people that without them having to go through like snorting blow off of fucking bathroom toilets, it's fucking godson.
We know that, that thousands and thousands of people have been forced into it because the NHS is failing so many people. The NHS is an absolute shit show right now for trans people of all ages, and more GPs are refusing to prescribe for trans people, even if they've been prescribing for years. They're turning around and saying they don't have the knowledge or experience to do it anymore. People are being turned away who've had prescriptions. I mean, like literally, I saw the other day that somebody who'd been on HRT for 9 years was told that the GP would no longer support their prescribing. And it's just like, what the actual? This is insane.
Yeah.
This is insane. And then at the same time, they're saying that kids can't access, well, parents are criminalized if they want to access puberty blockers for their kids. Kids are being subjected to what is, as far as I'm concerned, conversion therapy in the new services that are set up by TERFs. The Cass Review is an absolute joke and has been vilified internationally. The whole community hates it, yet somehow it's this golden grail of information that everybody must listen to. Well, no. If it was any other area of medication or healthcare and the entire community that it was meant to serve turned around and said it was an absolute pile of bollocks, it would never continue to be held up in such high esteem. This is transphobia. It's just transphobia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, this is fucking not even covert at this point.
Yeah, because when we had Heather on, we briefly discussed about this, because and because I hate to say it, but I've read half of the Cass report, and and Heather said this, there are good points in there, but
I hate them.
But that's about it. There are good points in there that are raised.
Good lines you can pick out.
But it's overshadowed by inaccurate information, and it's. I
mean, I still stand by everything I said in the. I actually had to read the fucking Cass report because I debated it. Nightmare. But I don't even live in the fucking UK. I live in Sweden. But you kind of, I still stand by that. You kind of have to read the Cass report like fucking Satan reads the Bible in order to pick out the good points. But they are hidden in there.
Yeah, but like I said to Heather, like you just said, Susie, they see the Cass report as this holy grail, their Bible, and it's like, first of all, did you actually read the entire Cass report? Because I bet you didn't. Like I said, I only read half of it.
Most people aren't scientifically literate.
No, they're not.
Which is sad. Yeah. Like, I wasn't before I actually studied.
No, but it's like going back to this neatly brings us into the puberty blocker ban. Because that is a shit show in itself. Because as we know, cis children take puberty blockers, specifically cis girls. Especially if they go through, as we all know, early onset puberty, which is harmful to them. So they take puberty blockers. So the mere fact that they are stopping puberty blockers for trans children, trans adults, it's like they do not see the harm they are doing.
My argument is still that any puberty on the gender you're assigned to at birth is a fucking precocious puberty for trans people. I stand by that as someone who had to fucking live through male puberty.
Yeah, because it's
like there's a reason my voice is like this. It's not because I smoke a pack a day.
Yeah, it's because it's the puberty that you don't want. Like I always say, trans people were never born the sex they were assigned at birth. That's not how that's not how it works. People are born gay, right? You can be born trans, but they can't correlate the two. But it's like, since starting Anne, have you seen an uptick in the amount of families of trans kids have wanted help? Like, what's the correlation?
I mean, yeah, I mean, we worked out that we could provide puberty blockers utilizing a legal loophole, which is around the fact that the original ban, in terms of it didn't make possession illegal. It made supply illegal, but possession wasn't illegal. So if a young person traveled to an EU country with an EU prescription, picked up the medication and brought it back into the country on their person, possession was not illegal. But now what they've done in the new ban is they've turned it around to make it that if a parent injects a child, that is supply. So that comes under the banning of sale and supply. So we then reviewed that legal advice, and what we determined with the lawyers was that if everything happens outside of UK jurisdiction, so for example, I could go to, if I smoked a joint in my living room right now, I'd be breaking the law here in the UK. But if I knowingly get on a plane to go to Amsterdam and go to an Amsterdam cafe and smoke a joint, I'm not breaking the law because I'm outside of UK legislation. Because
and
that is exactly what we are supporting families to be able to do. So the endocrinologist that we refer young people and their families to is based outside of the UK. He's in the EU. He will prescribe the 6-month injection for blockers if young people need blockers. Those young people then travel with their families to the EU. They then pick up the medication from a pharmacy in the EU with an EU prescription. They then have the injection administered by a medical professional in that EU country, and then they fly back home.
Be still my heart. This is wonderful. Like doing God's work.
Everything we're doing, and we're not encouraging people to do illegal acts. We are telling people the way that they can do this in a legal manner.
Yeah, that's quite literally the opposite, actually. It's
it's like
it's actually discouraging doing illegal shit.
Yeah,
we're telling them.
The recent
criminalization makes people do illegal shit when it comes to stuff like this.
And the thing is that this again, it widens that gap between people who've got the means to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to some parents who are literally putting everything else aside so they can afford to do this for their kids, because their view is if they don't do it, then they're not sure their kid will make another Christmas. So
and that is the reality, unfortunately. It's like, I remember, I think it was within the final 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks of 2024, somewhere around there. Good, like I lose track of time. The ban in Ireland, on puberty blockers, HRT, and all of this bollocks. And it's like, saying that puberty blockers will be banned, and it's like, they forgot that if you are still on the pathway, you can still access puberty blockers if you're on the gender affirming pathway. But it's like, to me, obviously, despite the numerous times I've been misgendered for a trans woman, which is ridiculous.
That's so fucking weird.
Um,
That is
I'm not.
my
I'm
greatest
not.
mystery.
Yeah, I'm not actually trans. I'm just an ally. Um, I just
I'm trans. I'm
see
not an
this.
ally.
Yeah, I just see this as, oh, let's all panic. Let's all just make up this make believe bullshit to
Panic
protect.
is never a good
You know,
idea.
if they really wanted to protect women and girls, they'd be talking about male violence against women. They'd be talking about the fact that most male violence against women is actually is done by their partners.
Well,
You know,
well,
they would be
yeah,
talking about the thousands of women who, you know, are battered and beaten every year. They'd be doing things around, you know, supporting women to have independence and autonomy, and they're not. They're not.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're undermining trans youth, particularly, and trans women. And what they're doing is they're undermining those. It's a thin end of a wedge, part of the
yeah,
far right mechanism. You know, this is a war against autonomy, it's against body autonomy. The lawyers that are bringing these cases are anti-abortion. You know, they're anti-gay weddings, they're anti-same-sex marriage. They're basically pushing an agenda that will remove contraception rights, abortion rights, and everything else from women. This is not about
Yeah,
protecting
like
women and girls. It's utter
like if
bullshit.
they are feminists, they're
yeah,
digging their own graves.
yeah. I've said this before.
Like it's like fucking
Yeah, this is
yeah.
all of this is just repackaged homophobia. Obviously it's a newer version because obviously they've now added on all of
Yeah, this time it's
the
pink and
added
blue instead
bullshit.
of
Yeah,
rainbow
but
colors.
it's repackaged homophobia, and it's like, you know, and obviously like you brought up earlier, they're trying to bring in their version of conversion therapy, and it's like, okay, like you can do all that if you
Which
want,
is like,
but it's not
why
gonna
add
work.
the extra steps? Why not just go to be a fucking fundamentalist shithead when you act like one? Like,
Yeah,
why
it's
bring
like
in a bunch of extra steps? It's just tiring.
whenever, because I brought up that obviously men being the violence that men doss out, unfortunately, and it's like they always twist it, like they always twist it to say, oh yeah, well, they always twist it and blame trans people, and it's like, no, no, right? It's like all
Yeah.
that back and forth. It's like
I don't
they don't
remember
make
which Helen it
sense.
was.
So, eh?
I don't remember which Helen it was, but one of them has the quote that women who support trans people should suit themselves when they get raped. And like that's a quote that one of the Helens have on their fucking conscience. I genuinely don't know which one it was. I don't care enough about these people to look it up because like
Yeah.
oh you like
Yeah,
what both of them has said equally spiteful fucking things. Like fucking throw a rock at a turf meeting and you're going to hit a piece of shit.
yeah. I don't want to speculate on which one said it because I don't because it's because I
Which
mean
one was the one we watched?
that what I mean we watched two because we
Yeah,
reacted to
I mean,
both.
the one who said that there is even a happy trans person is a like
Oh, that
dangerous
one.
thing in the same world.
Yeah, well, I'm not
The
gonna
thing
give
that
her.
actually
I'm not
got
gonna
me
give her.
angry, like the first time that I've genuinely been fucking angry at on this podcast, genuinely things roll off me because I don't do anger well.
Yeah,
I had to
well,
pretty much cut that episode off right then because I got so fucking angry.
yeah, well, I'm not gonna give her the time of day. So let's.
No,
we
really
know who.
shouldn't.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like I
Boys.
was doing a bit of a Google because I don't always like to do notes, but more than 200 trans people have been denied hormone replacement therapy, which you've already alluded to. This includes cases where individuals had recommendations from NHS gender clinics. The reason for refusal vary, including GPs feeling incompetent to prescribe, lack of shared policies, and personal beliefs. That's a huge one that I've encountered recently. It's like, yeah,
Personal
okay,
beliefs.
it's like, okay, you can have your personal
Get a
beliefs.
different job. Get a different fucking profession.
It's not
I'm
just that. I
sorry.
mean,
Like,
you can do your
I
job
can't
and
have a
have
personal
personal beliefs.
beliefs that I don't believe in grammar. I'm a fucking Swedish teacher.
Yeah, I mean, you can have
Like,
personal beliefs. That's fine. Just leave them at
yeah,
the
but
door.
like,
But it seems recently,
it's not my
and this
bloody
is
fucking
probably
job.
more evident in America because I don't know what's going to happen there. But it's like, oh, these affect my personal beliefs. So,
Fucking Titanic.
like, your job per the Constitution, per what you sign, you should be doing your job. Your job as a doctor,
Shouldn't the Hippocratic Oath
yeah,
come before your
yeah,
fucking
you
personal
sign it.
beliefs?
But it's like, I don't know
I don't
what's
know.
going to happen we're like what 16 days into the new year, and I would love to sit on this podcast and say that things are going to get better, but
I'm a
sadly they're
doom
not.
salesman, and you know it.
And it's people, yeah, well,
Salesman.
yeah, and it's people like Susie, you know, people like Helen Remley, people like Heather Patterson, all these amazing people who do this amazing work. These are the people that get lambasted, sent to hate, abuse, or because they actually look at data. They
Because they
work with
actually try to
people.
help people.
Yeah, yeah. These are the bad. Yeah, these are the bad guys, and the turfs are like the fucking saints or sent from God. Get the fuck out.
Ellen Joyce, it was,
Yeah,
who said
Ellen Joyce.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, people who
Thank you.
yeah. I
transition
didn't.
because every trans person poses a problem to a sane world. That's what she said. I mean,
That is the most fucking genocidal, vile bullshit I've ever heard any of them say. Because
yeah,
that's the only takeaway from that. Oh fuck.
we want
I get so
all
angry at
trans
that shit.
people not to exist. So
Yeah,
every trans
Yeah.
person poses a problem to a sane world. Yeah,
And then they try to be like,
that's the
and then they
level.
say that
That's the
I'm,
level.
and like when I'm in discussion with these fucking troglodytes, they love to like pretend like I'm such a mean person, which I am. I'm a fucking cruel bitch when I want to be. Like I'm a mean. I tend to label myself a mean girl with a heart of gold, meaning that I absolutely have the tendencies of a mean girl, but I try to aim it at people who fucking deserve it. Uh, According to my moral philosophy. But
yeah,
like, which is highly flip floppy, but like, and I try to like stand in the way of like action, like other people getting hurt. But like, and yeah, so yeah, I'm mean to them, but at least I'm fucking honest about it. Like, I don't pretend to be some nice little mothery figure. No, I'm sure. Call me a cruel bully all you fucking want to. I don't care. At least I'm honest. These fucking people like they feign such niceness, and that disgusts me to no end. Like they pretend there's a fucking saccharine sweet. They're the fucking witch leading Hansel and Gretel into the fucking gingerbread house with promises of candy and then eating them up.
I
yeah.
mean, I think somebody showed me a picture that was posted up online. Had a picture of me. It's a cartoon and it had a picture of me with a syringe in my hand. I thought it was hysterical. Um,
Yeah.
and I think if I read the shit that was written about me online and I took any notice of it, then I wouldn't be able to do what I do
No,
because the truth that I see and the truth that I know is from the families and the young people that I speak to every day. You know, that's the truth that I see. It's the thousands of trans kids and their families that I have been involved in supporting through Mermaids and now through Anne.Health over the last sort of, including my own daughter, So that's what I believe. I believe in humanity, and I believe in the human experience, and I believe in listening to people and believing them and respecting who they are without trying to persuade them that they don't know who the fuck they are when they clearly do. I believe in listening to people and their truth and respecting that. And if if the TERFs don't do that, and they see me as the bad guy and see me as the person that is causing harm, I frankly don't give a shit, because I see what those families are going through. I see what those kids are going through. So one of the families that we support, we're in a room with Wes Streeting. So the mum and her kid went into a room with Wes Streeting about 2 weeks before the final, the permanent ban was announced. That young person had a statement that his mum read out. There were 7 other young people in that room. The only positive story in that room was a young person who told about the fact that she got puberty blockers when she was 12. She moved on to hormones when she was 16, and she's well adjusted, doing really well in school, got great friends. That was the positive story. All of the other stories were around distress caused by the ban and by the lack of NHS services for young people. And Wes Streeting heard one young person talk about the fact that 2 of her friends were dead. Wes Streeting heard young people talking about the fact that if the puberty blocker ban went ahead, then they felt that they'd lost all hope. Everybody in the room was crying. All of the parents and all of the kids were crying. And the mum said it was the most traumatic hour ever of her life that she had spent. And when she came away, her kid said to her, "I really think he's going to change his mind, Mum." And she didn't have the heart to say it was already decided before they went in that room. This was a tick box exercise that he still put those young people through, regardless, so that he could say that he consulted with trans kids and their families. And he ignored everything they said, and then went ahead with a ban that he knows is going to cost lives.
That broke my fucking heart.
Unforgivable.
Jesus.
Unforgivable. And we're seeing families who can come, who can afford. Some of them can't afford it, but they're doing it anyway, coming to us so that we can support them to help them keep their kids alive. And that is literally the way that I see what is going on. And for those families who are out there who are looking at a new service that is going to offer them nothing, in fact, it's going to offer worse than nothing, because it's going to try and get to the root cause of their gender dysphoria. It's going to talk about being happy with the gender you were assigned at birth. It's going to talk about reasons why you shouldn't transition. It's going to talk about policing social
fucking
transition.
satanic panic them.
Yeah, it's
like back in the 80s and 90s, like it was, with the satanic panic in America, there were a bunch of kids who like were forced upon them like false memories of being abused as children because their parents were in satanic sects that didn't exist, and that's the shit that's going to fucking happen. Because like inserting false memories into people isn't hard. Like just repeat it often enough and the brain kind of fucks up. Especially when you're like influential and in the fucking care of somebody you trust. Like that's the shit that's going to fucking happen. And that's I'm sorry, this fucking pisses me off.
I agree. It's grim.
Yeah.
I thought so when my daughter was 12, I took her to America because there was no healthcare for trans youth in this country. So I took her to America, and we went to see a Dr. Norman Spack, who's amazing. And he prescribed blockers for her, and then fairly shortly afterwards, he prescribed estrogen for her. And I thought it was bad then. I thought it was bad, that the NHS wouldn't provide blockers until 16, by which point it's like, what's the point? Kids are past that point.
That's still,
But
I'm sorry, that's parody levels of fucking stupid.
I know. And I was like, well, if you're gonna what I thought that was really bad that we had to, I remortgaged my house to be able to afford to do that, to take her abroad. But I was privileged because I was in a position, I had a property that I could remortgage. I could do that. And I have absolutely no doubt that it saved her life. And, we had multiple families who followed us over to America. And at the time, I just remember thinking we shouldn't have to be doing this. But at least I was never criminalized. I was never made to feel that I was a criminal, that there was a potential safeguarding risk or anything else. It was bad, but it's worse
You
now.
could lose your fucking child.
We're supporting a family who've been reported to social services by their CAMS team for getting their kid blockers.
It wasn't for that, but like being a teacher, I work closely with social services sometimes. Closely as in they affect my work. I don't tend to get much influence. But like, and I had a family who a few years back who was broken up because of something that one of the children had told the school counselor, which had been misunderstood, like which was misunderstood then as they're getting beaten, and like that they were reunited later, but like that half year of them being hoisted around like foster families and like and nothing of the sort like fucking happened, and like to see the children, like you can believe them when they fucking tells you that I don't know. And that was all based on like a whim of a counselor who was a great counselor, but she took that leap too far. And having actually like seen the fucking notes from that session, like I genuinely don't know how she could have misconstrued that. Which I told her, like, because that's like, and just seeing that, and that was like cleared up afterwards, but that family was kind of fucking shaken up, and like the children were taken apart and like weren't kept in the same foster home and shit, and all for nothing essentially.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, when we cover news stories, I mainly, focus on, well, not mainly, but I primarily go to America because all of this batshit craziness.
It's a big place, and
yeah,
like the UK trans news are also always kind of just like headline. It's fucked. I don't know.
I knew things were really bad, but with what you just said there, Susie, with mistreating, I mean, I didn't like mistreating from the very beginning anyway. Just because you're gay doesn't give you the right to do what you do to other trans and non-binary kids and gay kids as well.
Would be a weird free card to give gay people.
Yeah, it's just fucking disgusting, and it's like this. I hate to say this, because it's reality. This is the new norm that we have to expect from these people in power. They will do absolutely anything.
And people wonder why I'm an anarchist.
Okay, let's put it in. Oh, we need a new Section 28. Okay, done.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, like genuinely, I want to make one thing fucking clear. I fucking admire your work, and I think you sound like a great mom. And like you are a wonderful fucking person.
Yeah,
Which is weird. I don't get to say that a lot on this podcast, but like, yeah,
yeah.
genuinely,
It's like,
you are fucking aspirational. That's wonderful. You do
Thank you.
great work, and thank you for coming on, talking to us. Not that we're ending here. I just want to make sure that
yeah,
I get that in here.
yeah. It's like
Uh,
because I grew up during section 28. Good old Maggie Thatcher. Um, and it ended when
as she's known to be called.
yeah. It ended in 2003 in the UK, 2004 in Scotland. I was 16 when it ended. But I can honestly say that Section 28 can still be felt. It can still be felt to this day. The effects of Section 28. If
Yeah,
they,
like it's not that long ago. Like
no,
on a
no, not
cultural
really.
time span, like 20 years is not a lot.
No, um,
It's not even a
that
generation.
it's
Barely,
like
like
if
two
these
generations.
turfs,
Sorry.
yeah, if these turfs brought in a new Section 28, I honestly dread to think what they would include in that. Like, how far would they go?
They kind of already have.
Well, yeah,
They kind of already
Yeah.
have. They've just done it through. They've done it through primary legislation against a
yeah,
medication that's safe, reversible, and is used around the world. And still in
Yeah.
the UK for cis kids, just not for trans kids. And they've done it through,
Which is fucked.
influence within the NHS to make
yeah,
anybody who accesses this medication outside of the NHS trial, which in itself is very unethical. It is it's worse than a Section 28 because Section
yeah.
28 it didn't criminalize families just for supporting their
No,
children.
no. It was primarily focused
This
on
does, yeah.
education. Yeah, it was Section 28. If I remember rightly, it was primarily focused on education.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Prohibited teaching
yeah,
about same-sex relationships, LGBT
yeah,
same-sex relationships primarily in schools.
Genuinely, I'm sorry if we're going to learn about it anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like
It just
you
meant we
know,
had an entire generation of people who had to learn through porn and action, which is fucking bad.
yeah. It's like I know, like I remember then.
The fuck did I
Obviously,
put my
it wasn't.
shoes?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Probably about 2 or 3 years ago at this point, when they overturned Roe versus Wade, and it's like the immediate thought that came into my head was there's going to be a lot of illegal abortions happening, and I can see the same,
Yeah,
and I can see the same thing, and
like
I can see the same thing happening for families of trans kids, where like you, obviously when you did it, you weren't criminalized, but they're now going to be criminalized simply for saving their kids' lives.
at least risk it. Like even that's
Yeah,
fucked.
potentially risking their livelihood, potentially risking them probably being arrested for simply protecting their children and wanting them to fucking live. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, this is why we've got this. Well, we worked really hard at making sure that we had a legal route so that people could find a way to do this without it being illegal.
Yeah,
And it's not. And we're really careful about that. But that
yeah,
doesn't mean that it doesn't still bring about scrutiny because the NHS, in terms of their language around puberty blockers, is now that if they find out anybody's accessing puberty blockers through a non NHS route, that would be considered to be illegal if administered in this country. And pharmacies are not allowed to fulfill prescriptions for puberty blockers unless they're via the NHS. And they're also saying that the clinical trial that they're going to start within the new services will be the only way you can get access to blocker medication. And that in itself is deeply unethical, because nobody should be forced into taking part in a research project, in a research trial, by withholding that medication if they don't do it.
That's the sickest double blind I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
We've
Jesus
also
fucking
had
Christ.
stories. Yeah, we've also had stories of parents. Anecdotal people have told me they've got their kids in the service, and they have been told by clinicians in the service, the new services, that they're going to give placebos. So even if a kid gets onto the trial, then they could end up not actually getting the medication. And
Can't double blind this fucking shit.
yeah. And again, there are so many contraventions of human rights happening. We're slipping further and further behind the rest of the world with our actions for trans youth. And kids are going to die because of it. And I'm talking, I've had conversations over the last month with 3 families who are all looking to relocate outside of the UK because of the way it is.
I understand them. I would.
Yeah.
If I lived in the UK, I would probably leave.
It's like,
Now I'm born and raised in Sweden, but like it's not that shit. And we seem to be moving into a better, we seem to be moving in the right direction, but it's like still fucking not good. There's a reason that I do it. Like, there's a reason that I self medicate, because I know that the fucking gender care here would make me put a fucking gun to my head, because I would practically need to prove myself to be something that I know that I've known that I've been for my entire fucking life. I would need to prove myself for 2 years to complete fucking strangers who don't know me, and that would like ruin me mentally.
yeah, it's like
And this is again where it comes in. Where's the respect? Where's the respect?
Yeah.
You're an adult. You're an adult. Where's the respect of your autonomy? Where's the respect of your right to be yourself? Where is the respect of you as a person to know yourself better than a fucking stranger who meets you for 5 minutes and decides that they've got a better handle of who you are than you?
Exactly.
How fucked up is that?
Yeah.
And like I worked hard on myself for like fucking 32 years or something. God, how old am I? Yeah, 32.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I'm 32.
Yeah.
I like that. But like I worked hard on myself for 32 years. Like, and I've known this is like I have 2 very, very clear memories. For like they are my 2 earliest memories. I've been able to fucking shot this with my mom. Like that's as far back as it goes, and I'm 3 years old in both of them. And one of them is the first memory that I have. And it's me biting the tip of my tongue off when I'm falling out of a car. Which is kind of a sucky way to begin, but like, hey, I like to start for some reason. It's kind of chaotic, and I am kind of chaotic. But then the second one is like me figuring out that there's been a distinction between like boys and girls, and me knowing that I've been on the wrong line of that fucking distinction, and me telling that to my mom and her saying no. And I decided in that fucking moment that like, oh, I'm never going to do anything about this, which I didn't do for fucking 27 more years until I had a stroke at 30, and I realized that the only thing that I fucking regret in my life is that. Like, I don't want people to do that. I want people to like get the fucking help they need.
Yeah.
One of the saddest stories I heard, that this is all about society's determination to keep people in boxes. One of my best friends was a community nurse, and she worked supporting people to stay at home in the community rather than ended up in hospital beds. And she went in to see somebody who was at end of care, end of life. And she was one of the parents with her trans daughter who followed me and my daughter to America, to Boston. So she had her kid was probably like late teens at this point, and she went into this person's room, and they were in, I think they were elderly. Their wife had died several years before, and they were at end of life, and they probably had about a week left. And they said to her, I want to spend my last few days living as myself, and I want to be known by this female name, and I want to be known by female pronouns, and I want to spend just those last few days before I die with the freedom of being myself. And they chose the right person to talk to, because my friend obviously had her own trans daughter and had fought tooth and nail for her in much the same way as I did for my own daughter, and continue to do so for all of the families and young people that we support. And she moved her wife's clothes, her nightwear, dressed her in like the appropriate like nightwear for who she actually was. And that lady had the last few days of her life living as female, and my friend made sure that all of her documentation reflected the fact that, you know, she was a woman and needed to be treated as such. That was it. Literally, she spent her whole life hiding who she was and only managed to be herself literally for days before she died. So yeah, I totally get it. And, you know, I'm really glad that that stroke made you sit and think and go, I'm not prepared to live a lie anymore, and I want to be myself, and I'll fight to be able to you know, achieve that. And it shouldn't have to be
like,
so fucking hard.
No. And like, it was rough. Like, it was like, you can't really you can't justify not doing it when like it's the only thing that you regret. Like, and because otherwise, like, I was just looking back at a life and like, I'm fine with dying. Not that I want to die, but like, I'm at peace because my life has been fucking gorgeous. Like, I've lived my way exactly as I wanted to, except for this fucking thing, and it's all because of that fucking no when I was 3 years old. Like, and I'm not saying that mom had any ill intentions with it. I think she was just I think she was dumb, not like malicious. She was malicious about other things, but not that. Because she is like this weirdly progressive satanic beast of a person who I keep loving by never talking to. But like, but like, uh, uh, so, and the rough part was like my girlfriend at the time, who's like, she's the other half of me. She's like my twin. So, but I knew that that meant that our relationship was going to be over because she's straight and she wouldn't respect mine. Like, which was like, that was the first thing that she fucking did when she realized it. Fun story. I had to tell her 5 times because I had joked so fucking much about me being trans during the 4 years that 4.5 years that we spent together, that she couldn't fucking grasp the fact that I was being honest for once. So I had like inoculated her to me coming out. But and yeah, we broke up on the fucking spot basically. But we became best friends, and she's like the other part of me. And now I have a wonderful boyfriend and I meet wonderful people because I'm non-monogamous. So like, love is no issue here. But like, just knowing that what I'm basically doing when I'm telling you this, telling this to the most important person in my fucking life, is I'm breaking up with them. But I couldn't
because
not do it.
yeah, because you're essentially breaking. I mean, it's sad that it's sad that you broke up, but it's like basically you're
Uh,
separating your old self with your new self, and it's like a new start.
yeah.
So
And also, like, just basically, she was straight. She's straight.
yeah,
Like, she's and she has a wonderful boyfriend now who I love, which is great because the last person she dated made me want to fucking curb stomp him because she treated her like trash. And like, I'm happy. Not me. That's not me. That's the person in between. And I'm really, really happy that she's not with that dickhead anymore. But like, but yeah, and just knowing that she would respect my identity to the point where, like, yeah, we're breaking up now because I'm not going to want to be with you because I'm heterosexual. It was kind of, and like she had her grieving period as well because, like, essentially a person had died for her. Like, I
yeah,
get that that's rough, and it's cruel to say that to like other people, but it's me saying it, so it's okay. But like, I get that feeling. Like, the person who she felt like she had, like, we had planned our lives together. We were looking at houses, and like, now that I'm thinking about it, it wouldn't be a life for me. But like, yeah, with her, it seemed cool. We were like talking about getting married and shit, um, and all that like went up in smoke, sort of. And now she's still the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, but in a very, very different way.
Very different way.
Uh,
yeah,
But at least she's still in your
and
life. You know, you've managed to.
I'm so
Yeah.
thankful for that. But I
Yeah.
think I also did it well because I gave her one friend because I knew that, like, she's going to have a lot of fucking emotions right now, and I'm not going to want to hear a lot of them, and she's not going to tell them to me, and she's going to bottle them up because, like, a part of them are probably going to be kind of fucking transphobic, and she's well aware that she's like wrong in that thing, but like, it's fucking human nature. So I gave her one friend that she didn't have to tell me who it was, who she could just spew to, and apparently she chose very, very well, wisely.
yeah, yeah. It's
Uh,
like I
we,
was looking because because like we briefly brought up the NHS. Um, like in my opinion, the NHS has never been um very well run. To be honest, in my opinion, they have just been horrible. But I was just looking because something popped into my head. Trans people face up to seven years for an initial NHS assessment.
Yeah. And it's actually worse than that because
Well,
that's
yeah,
sort of what they're saying. But actually, if
yeah,
you look at the numbers of people on waiting lists in some places, and then you look at how many new people are being seen every week, month, whatever. And I think it was in the case of Alice Lippman, who died, who took her own life, and access to gender affirming healthcare was one of the things that was brought up. And the judge said that when you look at the evidence of the waiting lists, the number of people on the waiting list, how many people were being seen, it was actually more like 23 years before somebody who joined the list today would actually be seen.
yeah,
The NHS is broken for
yeah,
trans people, and no matter what is said, no matter what mealy mouth platitudes come out of Wes Streeton's gob about protecting children and keeping them safe, he's putting them at risk. And this new, there's a there's a new a bit like the cast review, there's a review into adult services that's coming up. I think you can just expect it to be as transphobically, ideologically driven as a cast review.
yeah,
So NHS services are going to take a long time if they do ever come around, because it's really clear to me that, they talk about protecting children, they talk about keeping children safe. This is not about keeping people safe of any age, trans people of any age. This is about denying them treatment and forcing people into a position where they either stay in the closet or they have to seek healthcare outside. And now what they're trying to do is shut down access to that. So you know, this is the basis of this is transphobia. It's trying to stop trans people existing. It is a genocide against trans people, and it's evil.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the word genocide to describe this, in my opinion, I don't think it's strong enough, but that word just sums it up. It's literal genocide. And I've seen people
Yeah.
who are allies or or who are LGBTQ plus say that they get shot down for it. And it's like, no, what you are saying is a gay man publicly. He doesn't even have to utter a word because you can read it. You can read what he's about to say. He's literally killing this generation and potentially the next generation of trans kids. All because he had bought into the cash report, which which was commissioned, by the way. Oh, nice background. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
sorry. I just
yeah,
fucking Muppets, a lot of them. So why not
well,
join the
yeah,
crew? I know it's
yeah,
not Christmas anymore, but like, I'm here with my friends.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, he's literally killing the next generation because
Is Kermit there? Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, um, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you cope, to be honest, on a daily basis. Like
This,
how do
this,
you
this shit is how I.
yeah
What do you mean, her or me? I don't know.
Susie, like I don't know how you
Yeah,
cope.
me
Like
neither.
how do you like
That's fucking
because if
bleak.
I was in your situation, Susie, in the position you are, I don't think I'd be able to cope. I think I would tear my hair out.
I think
I think she is.
the reason that I cope is because we have to. I mean, Lizzie and I,
Yeah,
when we started Anne and we got that influx of, we got that first seed money so we could get going. We were looking around going, is anybody else going to do this? Because it's so desperately needed by so many people. Is anybody else going to step up? We shouldn't have to, but in the end, we just realized that we're probably the only two people stupid enough to put ourselves in the firing line. And I was a bit like, well,
That's
if nobody else is going to do it, then we have to. And the reason that we cope with everything that's out there is because actually we see from the work that we're doing and the families that we're working with that, the adult trans people who haven't been treated with respect or given proper care or been supported properly. We see the difference that our service makes. And that's why we cope, because it's really
yeah,
important that we do. And we have to keep coping and we have to keep supporting people. My joy comes from when families say to me, I was lost before I was lost. I didn't know what to do before I found out about you. And now I feel like I've got a way forward. I had a mum say to me that we were having a conversation a couple of days ago, and I had a mum talking to me, and she said, so, what happens next? And I talked through the process. I talked about how she'd meet somebody who her child could have a conversation with, that it was an intake which to establish informed consent, but it wasn't a prove to me how trans you are. It wasn't a you have to present in such a way, otherwise you're not a valid trans person. None of that absolute bollocks. It was,
yeah,
we respect who you say you are. We just need to know that you understand what the implications of treatment are, that you understand, what will happen, that you understand the impact on potentially on your fertility, and that you can give informed consent based on those parameters, and that the parent gives informed consent as well. And
yeah,
and then the next bit was, and then you'll speak to an endocrinologist, and that endocrinologist, lovely, has worked with trans people for over 20 years. He fully gets it. And your child will start off probably on blockers, and then maybe, in a year, they'll start on hormones, which will mean that they'll start to go through a puberty that's in line with their friends, with their peers. And she said to me, I feel like I'm talking to somebody for the first time who gets it.
Yeah,
And
I get that.
that's why I cope, because if me and Lizzie and the team of people that work for Anne, that really believe that trans people have got a right to fucking exist, if we weren't doing that, where would they be? And so we cope because we have to. We cope because we're doing the right thing. And I actually get joy out of knowing that not only am I sticking it to the establishment, but I'm really helping people as well.
The Anarchist in me is cheering right now.
Yeah.
But like also like I get that completely, because like it's not about trans, but like there are moments in my work where I meet hundreds of kids a year, and I meet them more often than their parents, in oftentimes. Like they are the people who I see the most, my students, and I have hundreds of them each year, and they come through there, and there will be a point where I won't be able to do it anymore, because like I said, I can't really manage children falling ill, and I see that every day, literally, because there's always something. And like on good days, it's just them being like teenage idiots. But
The
I had this,
definition of a teenager, isn't it? An idiot. I
Yeah.
mean,
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, and it's wonderful and horrible, and like I have to constantly say to them that no, everyone who tells you that this is the best time of their life is a fucking liar, or like peaked in high school, which is fucking sad. But like uh, I had a student uh, last year who like this is anonymous enough because people don't fucking know where I work. So eat shit to everyone who's trying to figure that out. I work in the Muppet Story. But like she had a panic attack over not getting an A, not getting a failing grade, not getting a bad grade, not getting a top grade was enough to unleash a fucking panic attack. This is a ninth grader, and she had, and I had like warned, because I had had this student for like 3 years at this point, and I had warned her mother, who also happens to be a colleague of mine. Fuck you very much. Uh, I had warned her for like 3 years ago that if you keep pushing her, this is what's going to happen. And then it happens. And the only response I get from that fucking spite is, well, it's good that she was worried about grades, right? And then I started digging a bit with this fucking child. Uh, and she was so fucking, she was like, uh, I realized that she was about to fucking off herself. Because she had stopped eating, she had like stopped like basically existing. She felt like so fucking shit. And I realized that I could manage to get her to eat as long as I ate with her, and pretty much she only ate if I actually was physically eating at the moment. Like like the weirdest, most depressing mirror image I've ever had in my entire life. And I've had many hungover mirror images, so like yeah, before I stopped drinking. But like, uh, and I did that for a week. I went to work and I took care of this fucking child, and it drained me, but that didn't matter, because then I went home and I stared at the wall and I regained energy, and that was all I had any energy left to do. I just fucking stared right at the wall. And like sometimes I called somebody, but like if you call people up at like 10 o'clock at night, they're not going to be inclined to take a fucking phone call. Like, and I was like giving my boyfriend the legal version of this story, that I could actually tell him without like getting anyone into trouble. And I also like said that you're not allowed to tell me not to do this. I'm going to do this until she fucking graduates if I have to, because then I would at least I know that I've done it. But this went on for like a week, and every day I went to work and I got drained, and I gave her the energy that she needed to fucking survive falling apart at the end of the day, because that was what she was going to do. So while I was regaining energy, she was falling apart, which was like a fair game. Fuck it, I'm there to help them. But then after a week, I realized that, wait, I'm clinically insane. Why am I following the rules? Because I realized something that I could actually do. And it risked my job to do it, to be frank, because what I basically did was, and I talked a lot, like I talked her through this beforehand, and I made sure that she was okay with it, because I called an emergency meeting with everyone, like everyone involved with this child. I called in the fucking communal fucking head of department, whatever the fuck, all of them. Come to an emergency meeting in my classroom, and she was just, I had like emptied out my classroom, put all of the fucking tables and everything into a back room. And it was just one chair in the middle of the room, which she was sitting on, and her parents were there, and everyone, and my boss was there. And I basically told them to, okay, but you're also such fucking cowards that it disgusts me. So I'm going to help you on to like get a backbone, and I want you to go like stand in front of her, look her in the fucking eyes, and tell her that you don't care if she lives or dies. And that actually managed to get through to people. But yeah, like there was no other option for me than to do that very thing. I didn't have that fucking choice. Like I had to cope, because like I had to. The alternative was to let her drown, and I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. If we didn't do it, then who else was going to do it? And nobody seems to be jumping up and down and offering to support kids. In fact, more and more GPs are moving away from supporting trans people of all ages, as you know, Corin, as you talked about, in terms of that, you know, those two GP practices have said they've just created a practice-wide rule that they will no longer support trans people at all, full stop.
Yeah.
So, you know, this sort of thing is becoming much more commonplace. And, you know, it's, yeah, I think, I know you said earlier, you know, we'd love to be able to say that things are you know, going to get better. I don't think they are in a hurry. I think it's going to get worse before we see any kind of turnaround. And I think it'll take some people dying, I think.
Yeah, it tends to do that with genocide.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Fuck.
This is just a hypothetical. Because in my opinion, I don't see.
I'm so fucking scared of what you're about to say now.
Yeah, I'm just like, what's coming next? Yeah, what is it?
I'm on
What is it?
I'm on the edge of my fucking bed, which I'm sitting on. But
I don't see, as it stands, the NHS lasting. So here's my hypothetical: if the NHS were to obviously disband, no longer exist,
what the fuck?
what would you want in place? Would you want a newer, stricter
Functional
NHS
fucking healthcare
that actually works and delivers everything? Like, how would you want to see it run if that were the case?
I just want a working NHS. I just want the fucking politicians to get their noses out of it and stop selling it off to their mates and making money out of it. And I want it to be a proper national health service.
I'm so sorry. I'm breaking apart right now because I just realized I did my entire story with a fucking Muppet background.
It's a good background. Nothing wrong with the Muppets.
I love the Muppets. The reason that I have this fucking image saved somewhere. Actually, it's this very reason, because I did this joke once earlier, in this podcast, and I hope no one remembers that.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like a year ago. So. I think it was actually at Christmas time.
Yeah, because I've always known this. I've always known that the NHS has always been it's always been underfunded. It's been underfunded for at least 20 years or more. And so a lot of the services they provide, I mean, not to shit on all of the amazing workers who did an amazing job during the pandemic, but the NHS is falling on its knees, literally. And so, if there were to be a new NHS, what service, what services could be saved, and what can be dismantled?
I think pretty much everything could be like figured out with the proper funding.
Yeah, if the right money was put into it and I think the bureaucracy and we shouldn't have politicians involved in, it should be based around it being run by people who don't have ideological standpoints.
That's really fucking like I need to props up Sweden there, and fucking I know saying this there's going to be some news story tomorrow that like proves me wrong about this, but like they are like they've sold out their healthcare and like gutted it, and it's worse than it used to be because of capitalism, but you know, I'm not going to be starting singing the national here, but more the international here. But anyway, but like they do that, like the actual medical work, like the actual proper, like this is what you need to be a doctor to do. They kind of leave to proper actual fucking doctors, which is like, and that's like pretty much across the spectra. Even like the right-wing parties tend to like respect doctors say.
Yeah, whereas we in the UK do the actual fucking opposite.
Yeah, well, you kind of tend to see like politically, your country seems to tend to want to outdo like the horror of austerity politics. Let's see what can be worse.
There's no such thing as austerity in our politics. It's all fucking dog eat dog. Who can be the more powerful? And it's like
criminalize homelessness and criminalize homeless people. Which one do you want to do?
Yeah, like
Porque no lo dos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not to sound like a cynic. No. I actually am not a cynic. I'm an optimist, weirdly enough, but I'm a weird kind of optimist.
Yeah, no wonder we're like ranked like fucking 19th or 20th of the worst country to live in. So
it's not just the weather.
No,
I haven't been to that many places in England actually. I've been to loads of places in Scotland, but like I've been to London, and that was the fucking worst week of my life. Might be also because that trip was done with a girlfriend who I had long since ceased loving, and who had long since ceased loving me. It was like a fucking last resort of the hopeless heartbreak. But other than that, like, I love Edinburgh.
Yeah. So
yeah, one of my sons works in Glasgow as a paramedic.
Oh, Glasgow is the only place in the world where I've seen a stranger do heroin. I just opened the wrong fucking booth in a bar. I know like that's a. Other than that, I had a great time in Glasgow as well. But like that was the first thing that happened. Like, oh, that's weirdly fitting for the stereotype I hear about Glasgow.
Yeah,
but other than that, like I only have great experiences with the entirety of Scotland. anytime I've been there, and I've been there a lot because the ex-girlfriend that I talked to, that I actually do like, her sister lives there, so we spend a few weeks every summer there, which is
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the other topic we
Hey.
wanted to discuss, so
I'm sorry,
what?
this is just sidetrack the fucking podcast.
No,
This is
that's
my
fine.
doing. I am the
No,
worst.
that's fine. It's good to it's good to have a laugh every now and then. So what are your goals? So what are your goals with? So obviously, what are Anne's goals this year? Because I'm assuming you want to obviously help more people, help more families. So what are your main aims this year?
Help
I
more
think
people, help more
we
families.
want to get ourselves to a position where we can start making enough profit that we can start subsidizing more people. We want to raise money through an awareness through the crowdfunder. So that's hopefully starting at the end of this month, end of January. We want to support as many people as we possibly can. And we want to provide a really decent service that's got proper clinical medical oversight, but that is gender affirmative, that gives people the respect that that they should have and should have always had, to be able to allow them to progress and be themselves and feel good about themselves in the midst of what is a really nasty, shitty world. So it's more of the same, really. Get Anne to a position where, we're as an organization that we can support the families and the adults that need us, and to be strong, to be able to do so, and to be able to provide. I'd love it to be that the numbers of people that we were supporting who were paying for subscriptions, that then actually by that subsidizes those who aren't. I would love it to be that there were equal numbers of people who were getting support from us to access healthcare free of charge, because they wouldn't be able to access private healthcare otherwise, as well as the people who can afford to pay it. But that's quite an ambitious ask, so that might take a few years. But in the meantime, just keep on doing what we're doing and helping as many people as we can, whilst also pushing back against all the crap that's going on. Somebody's got to, and I'm not a trans person myself. I call myself trans adjacent, because not only do I have a daughter that's trans, but some of the people in my life, my friends, and the family that you make as well as the family that you have, I love.
I love the concept of made family. That's my fucking jam.
So I want, do you know something? What should be happening is the NHS should be looking at the model that we have in terms of care and going, we'll pay you to provide that service, because it's far more efficient than the gender identity services that they provide. It's far less gatekeeping, so much more respect for people and who they are. But that's not the aim, because the aim is to stop people transitioning and to stop people from being able to be themselves. And that's not what we're about.
No.
Yeah.
Speaking of models, is there like going to we'll get to this in a bit, but looking to other countries who do a far better job than us, what model would you like to see the NHS basically modeled on? Like if we look at,
Is there a good model out there?
if you look at other NHS. So if you look at Finland, the NHS, how they support and help people. You know, actually, let me have a look, because I'm sure.
Malta's got great trans rights. It's got the most progressive trans rights.
Genuine fucking. Not that I have any like wrong any weird ideas about Malta, but like that being the one was just fucking surprising. Like not in a they should be worse, but like just you don't hear much about that.
No.
No, but they're number one in terms of trans rights worldwide. They're consistently coming in as the most progressive in terms of self-identification, trans rights,
Fucking hell.
healthcare. So yeah, so
That's cool.
I would love. Do you know what? I would
Good
just,
good job.
I would just love for this feeling of entitlement to question somebody's ability to say who they are and to police their identity. I would just love it to stop. Just
Yeah, that's actually what gets me so fucking worked up as well. Like it's a
why is
weird
it
thing to,
anybody else's business what you do with your life?
like I have a very, 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 very strong sense of autonomy, not just for me, but for other people as well. Like I feel like shit if I see someone be controlled by anything. But like I want to free myself of any sort of control. But like it's just weird to see people take for granted the fact that we can't fucking decide for ourselves. Like being infantilized, even worse. I wouldn't I would listen to a fucking. I don't know what age an infant is, so I'm not going to say an infant. But like if like you said, your daughter was 6 when she told you, or 3 or
She was
6
four. She was
somewhere
four when she told me,
4
and
4.
then she
Sorry.
was 6. She was 6 when I then started looking for more support, and because I didn't know what to do.
Oh
So
no, and who the fuck does, especially like back uh years ago. Uh, like, um,
there was
but
nothing.
like,
There was nothing. There was no information out there at all. So
no. Um, so like, I get that. It was, but like, you listen to that. Like, even a child, you listen to that when they tell you who they are. And people say like, oh, if my child wants to be a dinosaur, am I supposed to placate that? Yes, you absolutely fucking are. It's called playing with your child, you fucking monster. Like you're absolutely supposed to play along with them being a dinosaur if that's what you want to do for the day. Fuck. Why is that? Why do I don't have children. Why do I have to explain this to fucking full-grown parents? You listen to people when they tell you they fucking are.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I was just looking at the top countries that seem to have better healthcare than we do for trans people. Um, we have
There's a fucking list.
um,
Jesus Christ.
Canada. We have Canada, Germany, Netherlands, Spain, Sweden.
Thank fuck.
There are many more, but it's like it just boggles my mind
I'm
that
so happy that you read Sweden
these
there because
countries,
like
right, who are far more progressive, and that actually ties into the next topic. They seem to be more progressive, you know, go with actually supporting trans people and the wider community, whereas we are just basically, reversing. So
I
the
mean
top,
you
yeah,
still have to in Sweden. You still have to live a year as your
well, yeah,
um,
there is that, yeah.
desired gender, which is fucking weird. I still don't know what living a year as a woman would entail. Like, do you want me to dress in sun skirts and like stand at the stove and get beaten by my husband or something? I
I
don't
think it,
fucking know.
I think it's, I think when they obviously you have to live as your gender. I think it like, I mean,
Fucking bizarre way.
I
If you're
don't think
dressed in
it's,
pants that on October 17th, you're not real trans. But
yeah, but yeah. So like I said, that ties into the next topic, which is, let me scroll back up because I made notes. Well, I say I made notes. The global split between progressive countries. So well, we can count ourselves out because we're not progressive. We're anti-progressive. So, like I say, so yeah, if you look at, I mean, Canada is one. Yeah, Canada is one. Germany is two. Spain is number three. It's like, what are other countries doing that we are not in terms of trans healthcare? Because I think
Not
we could all,
spearheading a genocide.
well, yeah, there is that, yeah. But why are we not looking
I think it's
at other countries? Like, we can learn to adopt policies, you know?
yeah, but that's the goal isn't to help trans people.
If the goal was to help trans people, then they wouldn't be doing the shit that they're doing now. It's
Then
not.
they would be like probably taking some inspiration. Fuck it, plagiarize it wholesale. I don't care, just make it better. But like
All they need to do, I mean, like
yeah.
the WPATH international guidelines. I mean, there are still some issues with WPATH guidance. It's still too cis-led. It's there's definitely still some room for improvement there, and there's still an element of a cis outcome is a better outcome than a trans outcome. It's sort of implicitly in there, implied within some of the language, but the WPATH SOC A is far more progressive and did at least have trans voices and had trans team members and clinicians and stakeholders as part of that, which obviously the cast review didn't have anything like that. If the UK was really looking to support trans people, then CAS would never have happened. But Kemi Badenoch openly talked about the fact that they deliberately infiltrated human rights organizations, the EHRC, deliberately put together a team to do the review of children's services with the political remit to stop kids transitioning and to make it difficult for children to be trans.
Yeah, but I'm the danger to children.
Yeah. It's like I made some notes so that I stay on track because like Max, I have a tendency to go off track. So in many progressive countries, LGBTQ plus individuals enjoy legal recognition and protection. For same-sex marriage is illegal in countries like Canada, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Although we are on the downward trajectory when it comes to that and everything else. These countries also have laws protecting against discrimination. No, we don't. Not currently, we don't. Based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Social acceptance of LGBTQ plus individuals is generally higher in progressive countries. Public opinion surveys often show greater support in these regions. In challenges in conservative countries. In contrast, many conservative countries have laws that criminalize same-sex relationships and restrict the rights of LGBTQ plus individuals. So, public opinion versus legal rights. There is often a gap between public opinion and legal rights. In some countries, public support for LGBTQ plus people rights is high, but legal protections are lacking. And so,
I'm just going to go away from keyboard for a bit because I need to go to the toilet really quick.
yeah, that's fine.
I'm sorry. So enjoy hanging out with the Muppets here.
Yeah. And so, that's just a brief notes that I made about the global landscape. And it's like when people say, and I have had people say to me, that the landscape for LGBTQ plus people are diminishing, like practically every day, because there's always some law in another country that's prohibiting what trans people can and can't do. I mean, prime example, just look at what's happening in America. With the bans. I mean, um, there is currently 160 bans that are active in 27 countries. None of them have passed yet, but we already have 160 bills, sorry, not bans, that are active in the US. Not to mention, like, I brought this up to Heather, like, I want to see what, um, what is it, Project 2025 entails, and what that will do to an already scared community.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know I said,
and that's the thing.
yeah,
We're literally talking about a community now that is in a position where, their rights are being stripped. Their access to healthcare is being diminished, if not stopped altogether.
yeah,
Their human rights are being contravened. People are scared.
yeah,
And they're
and it's
scared
like,
with good reason, because what is happening is appalling.
yeah, and I've also made this bold statement as well, that if we look back in history to, you know the what the famous icons like Rosa Parks was doing, Martin Luther King were doing. If you look back in history and we look at segregation, where black people weren't allowed to enter certain places, black people back then were deemed non-human. They were called animals. Alongside the new homophobia that we are experiencing, we are also experiencing segregation, because they're now saying, oh, trans women can't enter female spaces. They can't enter female sports. Oh,
They're also all extremely fucking racist.
yeah, they need their own space. And
Like,
it's like
just to add to that, like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Could you take at least one thing that you're not a piece of shit about?
exactly. So alongside the new homophobia, we're experiencing this new segregation, and it's like I don't expect anything from these turfs, because they're stupid and they lack fucking biology, because they keep using primary school level biology, so they've stopped learning. It's like, what do you want? What do you
That's the
actually want?
funniest.
Now, what is your end goal? Is it that you want to erase a whole community?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say it is
Yeah.
absolutely 100%. That's exactly what they want. Well, as Helen
Even
Joyce said,
oh,
every
yeah.
trans
Yeah,
person
she literally
is
admits
an
it.
affront to a sane world.
Oh
I think
yeah.
she's an affront to the same fucking society.
Oh yeah. The
Yes.
woman who has
She's an affront to my fucking ears.
yeah, the woman who has a PhD in maths. Yeah. Okay.
Oh
Like, as if I'm going to listen to you anyway. But okay, go on. I'd
That's
rather,
the funniest
if
shit.
I,
People going
no,
on about the fucking PhD. We
yeah,
looked it up what it was. She's a mathematician.
yeah. If I had kids, right, and they were,
A fucking master's
and
in
they
literature. I can't use that for
were
fucking
were
genealogy.
trans, or they they weren't quite sure, right? Which is a common experience, because it's okay to explore your identity. That's okay,
Yeah.
right? Right. If I was in that position, I would rather listen. I would rather listen to someone like Susie Green over someone who is woefully unqualified and has been told that. Um, who,
It's some fucking experience.
yeah, and that's where we've come to at it now. Oh, let's not trust someone experienced who has been doing this for 24 however many years. Let's listen to someone who has a PhD in maths. Like, where have we come to? Where have we got to? And it's like, no,
And also has no experience of actually
no,
working with trans people of any age, who
No.
has no experience of actually supporting trans people of any age, has got a clear ideological stance of like transphobia against a population, and yet seems to be held up in high esteem. I mean, that's because it suits them to support that kind of narrative, and because it's transphobia, it's like homophobia, it's like Section 20A, it's all of the same thing, as you said, Corin. It's repackaged. It's repackaged bigotry and prejudice. That's what it is.
yeah, because me and Max, unfortunately, we reacted to one of her interviews, and and it's like
We
that
did a
was
bunch of videos with for a while.
that was the most boring hour of my life.
I don't know. I think the 4 fucking hours we looked at Glinner might have been worse, actually.
Yeah. But it's like, and also, I brought this up when we had Heather on, like, because the amount of times
I'm gonna move myself now.
they, are being sued, and that's inverted commas sued. They want to, J.K. Rowling because she bails them out, and it's like we've got to tap, and that's why I think that they are so emboldened in what they say, because they don't have to worry about any financial implications. So so I don't want to. I'm not assuming or insinuating anything that happened to mermaids with LGBT Alliance, but it doesn't take too much brain power to work out who they are financed by, because as we know, J.K. Rowling had nothing better to do, So if we get in trouble, oh look, we can run to mommy because she'll bail us out. And not to make, and I'll go back to I'm bringing back up the teacher. There was what's his flipping? Oh, what's his name? Oh, what's his name now? The one um who refused to respect his students' new name. Oh, what's his name now? Oh.
I'm just trying to think about it. So he was sacked, wasn't he? And then he
Yeah,
appealed, and then he took them to court, and
yeah,
then he lost.
yeah. and
Yeah.
he's being put on the
What a fucking loser.
wasn't he put on some list, like child protection, a CPS list?
He's
I'm
not
sure.
allowed near his old school, I know. I don't know
I
about
think
that, but like,
there was a
I think
restraining
that was,
order, and he still came back into school, didn't he?
yeah, he did.
Yeah,
And then he tried to play fucking victim. That's
yeah,
Kevin Lister,
Torin.
60, from Wiltshire,
Thank you.
was
yeah,
dismissed in September 2022 for gross misconduct by New College, Swindon, following complaints by 2 students.
yeah. I'm sure he.
And
Yeah.
gender critical Swindon teacher loses employment tribunal. So he took the college to employment tribunal, and in March 2024, the employment tribunal finds against Kevin Lister, who refused to use pupils' preferred pronouns. So he got fired for it. He tried to take them to court, employment tribunal, and he lost.
Yeah, no surprise, no surprise there.
So fucking dumb.
I'm sure I remember because I remember
Kevin
reading
Lister.
one of his posts, and I can't be bothered to fucking go look. But I'm sure
No, please don't.
I'm sure in his tweet, and it could have been a lie because that's what
I
they all.
think
I'm
Torin,
sure he mentioned that he was put on a list
probably
because
all I remember about this whole thing is one sentence that I say at the start of one of our podcasts, and it's not even about him. It's about some other person who came in and defended him in a discussion that I was in once. It was called Keith something, and that's actually who I'm referring to at the start of our clip show episode that I
oh
did.
yeah,
When I just say I have some things to say about that fucking cunt Keith as well, that's who I'm talking about then. That's all I know about this whole thing. Like I know that about the Kevin Lister, but like what you're doing, I think that was during the same time at least. But anyway, whether it's put on a list or not, he's not going to fucking work as a teacher again, and thank Christ for that.
What it says is Mr. Lister has since been barred by the DBS, Disclosure and Barring Service, from participating in regulated activities with children.
yeah. He
There we go.
did. Yeah, I said I wouldn't look, but hey
I
ho,
just
I have.
popped it out while we were talking, but yeah, he will never be able to work in a position where he's dealing with children.
Yeah, I'm looking at his.
And most,
Imagine nuking your entire fucking career over not calling someone Bob.
I'm looking at his pinned tweet from the 8th of January.
I don't want to be called this. Can you
Uh,
call me this instead? Yes,
yeah.
because I'm not a fucking monster.
Yeah, so he'd be
I
put
don't
on
know,
the
like
children's bond list, and somehow within this, he's also lumped in the Pakistani Muslim gangs into his pinned tweet, and it's like that's got nothing to
oh,
do with what
like
you
the
think.
people are fucking racist. But like also, I'm sorry.
Anyway,
As a teacher who did actually risk my fucking job to help a student, I'm just gonna say, what a fucking piece of shit this person is. Like how can you nuke your career over being spiteful to a student? How do
yeah,
you as a teacher function if that then you just seek authority, you
yeah,
absolute fucking monster.
just
Oh,
doesn't.
I want to
Yeah, I mean,
control people
yeah,
and children are easier to control.
yeah. And
yeah,
it's also about, them saying that they've got the right to their opinions, but that doesn't mean that they've got the right to bully a child, which is essentially what the tribunal said.
Yeah, yeah, it's like there's a fucking league world of difference there between
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can have your shitty opinion, and also, no, sorry, as a teacher, you're not always allowed to have your opinion. Like that's
Yeah.
it's actually at least here in Sweden, it's in our job description that we're not like we are allowed to be politically like my students know that I lean left. I'm not allowed to go in and talk anarchist theory with them. Like as a I'm not allowed to teach them how to make fucking bombs and storm the fucking parliament.
Yeah.
Which I would never do,
Yeah.
of course. I'm not allowed to say whatever the fuck I want. Even like I listen to the band Bad Religion sometimes, and I have one of their t-shirts. And I don't know if you've seen their logo, but it's basically clearly done by a 15-year-old because it's just a cross and then a like no sign
Yeah.
across it. I'm not allowed to have that in school because it's technically saying down with religion. Like if someone doesn't know the band reference, that's what they get from that t-shirt. I'm not allowed to wear that in school, and I fucking would never do that. Because like, no, you're not allowed to have your opinions at all times when you work in this profession. You unprofessional fucking hack.
Yeah.
And students come first all the time. There isn't a single fucking second of your work day as a teacher where the students shouldn't come first.
Yeah. But I mean, there was another,
Fucking opinions.
there was him. Then there was another teacher who I think successfully sued or something, and he I don't know if he got his job back, but the school sued him or whatever for misgendering or something, and he went to court and he won that court case or that trial. Then there was another teacher in Manchester who did the same thing. Refused to respect their students, needs. So they must really think that. I spent 20, 25 years, 25, 30 years as a teacher. I really love my job, but you know what? I don't agree with
I
this.
really
So I'm
love
just
being a
going to
transphobic piece of shit even more.
yeah, I'm just going to totally fucking nuke my career.
Which
But
I mean, I'm glad they did. They should be working as teachers.
no, well, yeah, I agree. I mean, that's probably not something that we really should get into because then we're going to be perceived as, oh, no one should ever work with kids. Like, no, if you want to be a teacher, be a teacher. But
Yeah, just don't be a fucking piece of shit.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, go on.
clearly, I don't think nobody should be a teacher.
Yeah,
I'm the fucking greatest teacher in the world.
yeah. What would it? Yeah, what would it make? Actually, I'll rephrase that. What would it take for us, the UK, to be the country to be progressive, to be the country that people can come to, and they know that they don't have to worry about anything. Because when I look at other countries like Finland,
The political desire to.
yeah, when I look at Finland and I look at Germany, and I'm sure that they have their problems as well. I'm sure they do. But when I look at those countries, I'm like, huh, they seem to have a format that works. And I look at our system. I mean, our system is fucking bullshit anyway. And it's like, I would follow if I had to leave this country. I'd rather live in Finland or Germany or wherever, because they have a better standard. That's what we don't have. We don't have any standards anymore. We don't have standards of care.
No.
To our patients.
But like, what would it take? The desire to and like the funding.
Yeah, but
Is
even then,
probably my answer.
yeah, but whenever they say, oh, because every 5 years or so, they always review the funding for NHS. You know,
Yeah,
they
it's
do
part of
that
the
every
5-year
5
plan.
years or so. Yeah, and it's like they always pull the funding, right? And it's so again, like and the trans healthcare on the NHS, like as Susie has said, is diabolical. It's fucking shit. But it's like, how do we get back?
Broken at its core.
Yeah, and so taking away the politics and getting them out, what would it take for us to be seen as progressive? Because I've got to be honest, we are slowly going down the list. We're like 19th or 20th. Like, whilst, Finland doing great, Sweden, they have their own issues, but they're doing great. Are we, it's like, I'm lost for words because I can't fathom the next 5 years of this. Because we're just going to go worse and worse. The rating list.
I think one of the basic problems that we've got is that we've got a media that is controlled by the richest people in the world who are very adept at turning, people against each other and putting people into positions where they're basically supporting their crony mates. I mean, like literally the Conservative government saw the UK as like a pot of money to be plundered and given to all their mates. And unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure. I know damn well that what's happening with Labour is no better. We've got Tory light now. We need a proper socialist government. And I don't see that happening.
That's what it would take. Socialism. Yeah. I'd say that's what it would take.
Yeah, we need to move away from this model that, wealth trickles down, because it doesn't. It fucking doesn't. It just stays in rich people's pockets and the poor get poorer and poorer.
Yeah,
pockets lined with profits.
Because I remember
quoting it.
because I remember, for me to make an appointment with a GP, like probably 6 years ago, I was able to, call my GP, ask for an appointment, and I could be seen within 24 hours or 2 days, depending on the what appointments they had. Now, and this is just for me. I know it's a shit show for trans people to get an appointment because it's ridiculous. But now you have to make an appointment online, and you have to wait 3 or 4 days to get an appointment. Now, I only go to my GP for, medication for depression and all of that, right?
I avoid my doctor like.
And it takes me 3 to 4. And it takes me 3 to 4 days to get an appointment, or for them to get back to me. So the GP surgery system is fucked. It needs to be better streamlined. NHS needs to be, in my opinion, overhauled, and reformed. First, starting with taking all the money out of it, all the politicians out of it, because during the
giving
pandemic,
it back to the medical professional, like Susie said earlier.
Yeah, because during the pandemic, that was a shit show. Because there weren't enough beds in the hospitals. the only reason we got through that is because of all the doctors and nurses working their asses off. It needs a whole new restructuring, and that's why I brought up the hypothetical earlier.
Yeah.
Because
it needs to be properly funded. It's the least funded healthcare
Yeah.
service. I mean, and as it's becoming more and more privatized, parts of the NHS are being sold off bit by bit. Our NHS is being dismantled in front of us. It's not the NHS anymore. It's a series of private companies running for profit. It's not the NHS anymore. And it needs to be taken back, and you need a government who's willing to do that, and we certainly haven't got that now.
No, it's like we had it's like, I don't vote, right? Because you can class me as an independent. I don't believe MPs at all. Because that's just me. That's just my personal opinion. But it's like we had the Tories in power for 14 years. 14 years they were in power for. And during that time, the NHS, I mean, I'm sure I can't put all the blame on them. I'm trying to be, kind here.
Fucking do it anyway.
Yeah. The NHS got worse and worse because they pulled the funding every year. So for at least 14 years, let's say, me personally, I think it's been longer than that, but let's say 14 years. For 14 years, the NHS has been underfunded. Right? Understaffed, underpaid. Right? Not to mention, the majority of nurses have left to go to other countries because they realise that why the fuck am I wasting my time working for the NHS? So, it's gonna. So, I hate to be a fucking, a Scrooge, but it's gonna take at least another 10 years for everything to be sorted out. And within that time, there's going to be thousands and thousands of trans youth, trans adults neglected. They're going to be neglected. They're not going to be able to access the gender affirming care they need. Not going to be able to access the medication they need. And it's going to be so extortionate because everything will be privatized. Not everyone is going to be able to afford to go private. And you brought up the costs. Like it's gonna be ridiculous. And what I find funny in quotation marks, is the amount of money. Was it AstraZeneca or Pfizer that made something stupid like 30 billion profit in selling AstraZeneca? Because I'm trying to think. Anyway, they made a huge profit during the pandemic on one of those two vaccines. And it's like, where did that money go? Couldn't you have put that money towards healthcare? Couldn't you put that money that you made a profit on towards paying doctors, nurses? But no, they made all of that profit to all of that money that they pocket, so that they can go out and buy their fancy houses. Give them a big fat bonus. Meanwhile, nurses on the front line are putting their lives at risk. You know, I mean, charities like mermaids, because obviously this all happened in the height of the pandemic. You weren't getting enough funding, or so you probably losing money like every other business was. Well, not business, but other charities were. So you weren't getting paid money to obviously pay the staff, and it's like you were saying, money, power. Oh, don't worry, we made our money. He's like a £500,000 bonus, or however much they get paid. Meanwhile, they could go fuck themselves. And I just find that it's going to take at least 10 years, maybe more, to
Thing
get money
is,
out of
it's going to
pocket.
take 10 years from the point where somebody comes in who actually has an ambition to change things.
Yeah.
And that's not happening now.
No,
That's
I
not
mean,
happening now. And I'm really worried about
That's
what's
not
going to happen
happening in
with the
10
next.
years.
No, and I'm really worried about what's happening with the next government, because I doubt if Labour's going to get back in again, because Keir Starmer's making so many mistakes. And
yeah, well,
it's
I,
reform. It's reform that are being, touted as
yeah,
being the ones that are going to get in, and
I,
then we're really fucked.
I have a sneaky feeling, and again, this is my opinion, and I could be totally wrong, but I have a feeling that when Keir Starmer, the geezer, is a fucking twat, when he stands down, I have a feeling that Kevin Badenoch will be the next PM of that party.
I mean,
Because that,
Badenoch is the leader of the Conservative Party, though.
you see,
So she can't be our next PM if Keir Starmer. I think Wes Streeting's heading for it.
oh, fuck.
Yeah, I think Wes Streeting. That's what's happening. Wes Streeting is aiming to
Oh,
be Prime Minister, and I think that's why he's taking this stand with puberty blockers, because he's buttering up the people that will support him on that.
yeah, well, uh, hopefully, that won't happen. Because I'm sure it's because, you know, there'll be someone new that will come along. It's like a politics now is like a conveyor belt. Like as soon as one comes in, there'll be a line of forwarders that'll come in and they'll replace. But it's like I don't know. Sorry for those of you who thought this was going to be an uplifting
Yeah.
conversation, but
Who the
it's
fuck
not.
listens to this podcast thinking that at this point?
I don't know, but I'm sure there are people like that. But it's like I don't know. But this is what we have to look forward to.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm going to, because I've got some grading to do before I go to bed. So I'm going to
yeah,
have to pop off, unfortunately.
yeah, that's fine.
But I would just like to say thank you for Susie for coming on and speaking to us. And you are a lovely, lovely person. I am so happy for this conversation. It might be bleak and it might be shit, but at least it left me in a good mood because people like you are out there doing fucking good work, and that makes me genuinely fucking happy. I got sappy. I got fucking teary-eyed at some point. That's never happened before on this. I have a heart of fucking stone. Uh, but yeah, thanks for giving us this time. It's been great. But I need to
Lovely
pop
to
off
meet you both. Yeah.
right now, so I'm not going to do any
Yeah,
proper goodbyes or anything. And I'll be seeing you next week, Torin. And
yeah,
hopefully we'll have you back in the future because, as I said, it's been lovely.
yeah,
You're great.
yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I have um like I one of the last topics was transphobic developments But I think we kind of already.
I think we've kind of, I mean, interspace with everything that we've been talking
Yeah.
about. I think we've talked a lot
So
about that, haven't we? Yeah.
yeah. If you've got a few more minutes, I'd like to ask you a few questions that I'll try to skip over what we've already basically spoke about.
Okay,
So
cool.
so this one. So what are some of the biggest challenges faced by transgender youth today, and how can we address them?
Think everything that's happening on the political and healthcare front for trans youth. No access to medical interventions unless they go private, in which case then, you know, then having to pay for that. So if you're in a family that hasn't got the means to, you've got no options. Education in terms of the, you know, the educational guidance that came out of the Tory government, which has been picked up by Labour and just allowed through, you know, that doesn't support trans youth adequately. I think the whole political environment for trans people, that obviously has a knock-on effect into every aspect of your life, is very hostile towards trans youth and trans women in particular. And those are the challenges, is how do you come back from that place, and how do you push in the right direction? And it needs a government that's going to stick up and actually stick up for the right things, and we haven't got that at the moment. So
Yeah. How has the public perception of transgender individuals changed over the years, and what
um
impact has this had on healthcare access?
well, it's basically, it's like the dead cat, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
government, you know, the media screaming about trans people and pointing to trans people as a danger to others, and all of that has been done to divert attention from their like money grabbing ways and basically filling their mates' pockets. And what they want us to do is fight amongst ourselves, and they're targeting a vulnerable minority of people to make us do that, and it's worked
Yeah.
because people's opinion of trans youth and trans women in particular, you know, has gone down because public opinion has gone down because the media has played this population, and it's so frustrating to see that they've been successful with their scare tactics and their hate, and people have been taken in by it. But
Yeah.
that's the truth. And all of that has a knock-on effect on access to healthcare, education, you know, the external environment, what you get in terms of the you know, employment, the, you know, your, as a trans young person coming out of school and going into employment, you know, you would be rightly scared about what you're going to you know, encounter in the workplace.
Yeah. Um, that kind of answered the next question, so I'll skip to the next one. How can schools and educational institutions better support trans students?
Educate themselves on the truth, you know, and to do that they need to look to organizations that support trans people. They need to read, there's lots of studies, information out there that makes so much more sense than the hate that's been flung around against the trans population. And you know, there's so much evidence in terms of the positive impacts of affirmative care, affirmative support, and stop allowing your perception of what's going on out there to be dictated by a bunch of dictators who want us all to argue amongst ourselves while they rob us blind.
Yeah. What are some common misconceptions about transgender health that you encounter, and how do you address them?
Well, there's lots of common misconceptions, isn't there? I mean, there's
Yeah.
this misconception that a young person goes to their GP and says, I'm trans, and they're immediately passed a load of pills and rushed through a process, and no due diligence is undertaken, and they basically can jump straight into surgery and medication and everything else, when in fact the reality is very, very different. There's this perception that kids are being coerced down a pathway of being trans. Again, absolute nonsense. So, those are some common ones. That this is a lifestyle choice, that this is this is a choice, that kids are doing this to be trendy. I mean, what? Nobody would subject themselves to the kind of hate that the trans population gets on a whim. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think those are the main ones, that kids are being rushed down a pathway, and that, if you just left them alone to be kids, well, no.
Yeah.
No.
I have 2 more questions, and then I will obviously end it on that. So, how has your work with mermaids influenced your views on trans health and advocacy?
I mean, to be honest, it's not my work with mermaids that influenced it's the families and the young people
Yeah.
that I've seen. Those are the people, those are the influences, actually seeing what happens when a kid's believed, supported, and is allowed to be happy and be themselves, and supported to be themselves. That's what has really influenced what I do and what I believe in and what I stand up for, and what I'll continue to stand up for, is seeing the actual difference it makes for a young person to be supported. And that's my influence. Real people living their lives day in, day out. That's what makes me determined to continue to fight for trans people. I see the positive difference it makes on people's lives if they're allowed just to be.
Yeah. And the final one, what advice would you give to young transgender individuals who are navigating the healthcare system?
How young, I suppose it would depend. I mean, there kind of isn't a healthcare system at the moment. That's the
No.
problem.
Yeah.
There isn't a healthcare system. So it's, which is why, we're really committed to try and, supporting people, raising funds, as well as using our business model to raise pots of money so people can access healthcare who couldn't afford it through the private system. But essentially, the NHS is broken. If somebody's trying to access the healthcare service now, if a parent came to me and said, we're on a list to be seen by the new gender identity service, what should we do? I would honestly tell them to avoid it, because it's conversion practices. It's talking therapy to try and dissuade a young person from transitioning, from being able to be themselves. And it's not affirmative care under any guise at all. And if it was a family coming to me and saying, we're considering doing this, going to our GP, I'd say they're not going to do anything for you. And in actual fact, what they would do is probably traumatize your kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sucks that we at this moment in time that we receive no way in for them. But yeah, as we've obviously already mentioned throughout this podcast, the bottom line is the NHS is on its knees, and so so unfortunately it's down to amazing people like you who have to do the best you can for these families
Yeah.
who who have no other way, who have no other means of getting advice. And so, yeah, I think I'm sure that in 6 months' time, or however long it may take, we may have a better outlook as to what is going on politically, or but yeah, I just want to thank you for giving your time. It's been we are me and Max are both appreciative of your time, and want to thank you for being a wonderful guest. I will put
Thank you
everything
for
down
having me
below.
on. Yeah.
No problem. We'd love to have you on again at some point. I will put everything down below, including Anne.Health website. If there's any information that you want me to include in the description, then do feel free to send it
Yep.
over.
Yep. I'll pop
Because
it over.
I want to make sure that I direct people to the right, services. Um, and so yeah, that will be it for this episode. Um, those of you listening on Spotify, the video version or audio, do check out Anne.Health. If you have any questions, or you have family members who are on their journey and you want advice, the place to go to is Anne.Health. They have a contact form on there. You can contact them. I'll put all relevant information down below, so you don't have to worry.
Yeah,
So
we've also got Helpline and web chat
yeah,
9 to 5 Monday to Friday as well. That's free to access. So if people want to have a chat with somebody, then they can do that, and that's free to access.
yeah, that will be down below as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Um, and I'm sure we will speak again at some point in the future.
Okay, lovely. Okay, well, have a great weekend as well. Okay,
You too. Bye.
bye bye.
Me, let me stop